I believe we're live, Tony.
This is so
Welcome.
exciting, isn't it? It's
The,
so exciting to be
the
having a
team,
coffee with you.
the team's back. Virtual coffee.
Now, when I hold
Sorry.
it
I
over,
was trying to
there we
do
go.
that.
We can do that. But here's the thing now with my virtual background. Look at this. I hold it over there. Now I've got a branded mug. So ordinarily I don't. I
No.
might just hold it over there and have the branded TMC mug. What do you think?
Oh, well, I might do the same.
There you go. Look,
There
see,
we go.
that's it. The YPVA mug. I love
It's
it.
it's sorted. I was a bit embarrassed because last week I had a horrid little thermos thing that I had, and it's been
Right.
through the wash, and half of it's been shredded. And I went, oh, got to work on the branding,
Absolutely.
which I see that you've nailed in your background there, Tony.
There you go. Look at this. There we
That's
go.
awesome.
So your
Love.
your team have nailed it, right? So let's, in the spirit of disclosure, so your team work with me, and I'm delighted since you guys have come on board and made a significant difference to my business. So I've got a very special champion based up there
She's
in the
amazing.
Philippines, Tin. So if you're watching, hello. Get back to work, but hello.
That's right. Get off Facebook.
Yeah, that's it. But no. So you guys did that. So
Uh,
fantastic. Thank you.
that
Really
that
appreciate it.
that was Rain. So Rain's our
Good.
design.
Yeah.
There's another word for her. A design assassin.
An
She's a
assassin.
design assassin. So she
Mm.
absolutely annihilates, not in a bad way,
No, I
but
get it. I get it. Yeah, yeah, that's it. She murders all the
blow,
branding.
blow it up. But Tony, I am so delighted to have you here as
Thank you.
always.
Thank
I
you.
love our sessions together.
Thank you.
But really, what virtual coffee is about, we're talking about the businesses that we're here to impact.
Mm,
We're having a little bit of a break to talk about the business side of business. How do we
mm,
help entrepreneurs and businesses grow
great.
and achieve the incredible things that they want?
Mm,
They went into business for
yep.
and they want to achieve. And one of our favorite topics is around why.
Yeah, correct. Well, it all starts with that. And I was actually just reading another article on why before I was before coming on here. But it all starts with why. Why did you get into business in the first place?
Mm,
And this applies to everything. You need to understand the reason behind why you do something, because your
yep.
journey in business and it could be a small business, it could be a retail store, it could be a franchise, it could be a manufacturing facility, it could be a property business, right? Property is a business as well.
Mm,
And why did you get in there? Because your days and your journey is going to be filled with ups and downs and ups and downs and good days and bad days. And so it's your why that's going to pull you forward. What I find is that a lot of people will be pushing, right? And the problem with pushing is that when you push a lot, you exert a lot of energy, a lot of effort, and you eventually run out of steam. Whereas
mhm,
when you have something that's in front of you and it's pulling you towards it, it's like this gravitational pull, right? That just every time your feet hit the floor and you bound out of bed, it's pulling you towards it, then it feels so effortless and it's so much easier. So it's important to spend a lot of time getting clear on, why you did the thing that you want to do in the first place.
can we use this as a free session?
Yeah,
Should I
go for
say
it.
free? And good morning, David. How are you? Well, David Ng has a very strong why, so we both know David
We
of
do. Yeah. Hello, David. Yeah.
community homes.
Yeah.
And he's got a very strong why as to what he does there in
Mm,
terms of making an impact in
mm,
in the community,
mm,
providing
mm.
affordable rental, safe
Yep. Yep.
affordable housing.
Yep.
So a little bit of news here. So your property VA will
Hmm.
we are rebranding.
Oh, this is exciting. What are you
That's
rebranding
exciting.
to?
We are rebranding to the Growth Hub.
The Growth Hub. I love
The
it.
Growth Hub. Don't ask me to say that too quickly after a few gins
That's not too bad. No, the Growth Hub's not too bad. That's
because
not too. Yeah, that's okay.
as with
Yeah.
an Asian accent, it
Okay.
might sound
Okay.
the Growth Hub because but
I,
that's not what it is. But the whole idea and now why, I like to delve into, and the reason
yep.
why we wanted
Mm,
to rebrand
mm,
was to be able, and it's always been our vision and our mission is to be able to create that level of freedom that people are
mm, mm.
looking to achieve
Absolutely.
and be partners in growth
Mm,
with our clients,
mm.
and not just our clients but our champions
Yep.
as well. So
Yep.
it's the hub where everyone grows,
Fantastic. I
right?
love it. I think
And
it's wonderful.
and so just while we're talking about why, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess for businesses that have
Mm,
been operating and all of
mm,
that,
mm,
like it sort of almost feels like, do I have to know? Should I have been thinking about this way before when I started my business,
mm,
or while I'm in the mode of already hustling in my business? Is it
mm,
ever too late? And I know it sounds silly. Is
mm.
it ever too late
No, no.
to reflect back as
No,
to my why?
no. So the best time to do your why is when you start your business, before you start. But the reality is that if you're learning about this concept today, then you can't change the past, right? So the
Mm,
second best time is right now. And
mm,
so that's the bit that I want to focus on, the right now. And it's about understanding why you went into business, because like I said, business isn't easy. Now, the facts are that 60% of new businesses fail within the first 3 years, like 60% of
mm,
new businesses fall over within the first 3 years. That those odds are catastrophic, right?
mm,
And then it's not just the failure of the business; it's then the financial, but also the emotional and the mental impacts that goes with that. Because again, you imagine you've saved up, you've got your life savings, and then within 3 years your business fails. Then there
mm,
is an enormous, mental cost that goes with that. And so that's why it's important to ensure that you figure out why you want to do this. And maybe at the start, if you are at the start of your journey, maybe it means that you don't do that business. Cool. Like that's awesome. Like I'm all
mm,
power to you if you have some self-awareness and realize that actually that's not for you. That's great. However, if you're in business, then you want to understand why you're doing what you're doing, because when you understand why you're doing what you're doing and you get clear on that, it's going to remind you of the feelings that you had, way back at the start. It's a bit like
mhm,
relationships, right? So relationships with marriages and whatnot. When you start the relationship, it's rosy, it's happy, it's all these things, and then you get along the journey, and stuff happens, and you have kids, and you have financial pressure and whatnot. And if we all took the time to remind ourselves why we
mm,
started in the first place,
mm,
then it would bring back the happiness. And when you're happy, are you more or less productive? Well, you're more productive. And when you're more productive, providing you're using that time on the right things, then you're going to create an amazingly successful business. And when you create an amazingly successful business, then you don't have to worry about all those other issues that I talked about, because your business is flourishing, it's thriving, as opposed to just teetering on the edge. And a lot of people are in their business and they actually get paid less per hour than they used to, perhaps as an employee.
Yeah, and that's so Luke's joined us, the gurus. Well,
Hi, Luke. How you
oh,
going, mate?
you're so good, Luke. David, love the name. Sounds more inclusive. It's for everyone from any backgrounds and industries. If I'm not wrong, that's
That's
correct.
correct.
And
Absolutely.
like I said, everyone has the opportunity to grow.
Mm,
And so what I've realized in terms of the why and the importance of it is,
mm,
and this is for any business, is
mm.
often we get to points where we have so many competing priorities,
Yep.
and we find it difficult to work out what do we spend our time on
Hmm.
when everything seems so important.
Yep.
So Tony's like, I'm just busting to tell you how to work
Let
through
me
that.
let me
Tell
add
me,
it.
let me at it. Okay,
Well,
go.
so it all starts with, so let me just say, right? So one of the things is that I believe that personal development, business development is simple. It's just not easy. And I have a real gift of being able to simplify things for people, and hopefully it makes it easy to understand. For me,
Mm,
start with the end in mind. So now that you've discovered your why, it's now about the what. And the what is start with the end in mind. And the end could be 6 months, it could be a year, it could be 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, it doesn't really matter.
mm,
Perhaps if you're someone who suffers from anxiety, maybe the end for you is 1 month, right? It doesn't really matter. But it's about start with the end in mind. And then when you've got something clear that's down the road, now you've got something to aim towards, right? And so then when you have competing priorities, you need to challenge yourself. Of these
mm,
priorities, which one's going to take me closer to this thing down the road or further away? Which
mm,
one's going to propel me forward or be a distraction or a hindrance, right? That's one of the first things, is to get so vividly clear. And I'm not just saying, hey, I want to grow my business, because if you
mm,
grow your business by $1, well, technically you've grown your business, but I know that that's not what people intended. So the whole point is, how much do you want to grow by? In what areas are you going to grow? Are you going to grow by X number of clients? X profit, introduce X products, right? So there's a real specificity with all of this, and it's important. I use the analogy of a GPS. So when you hop in the car and you go to a new destination, you don't just type in the suburb and hope that you miraculously arrive at your address. You type in the street number, the street name, the suburb, and guess what? You arrive. And so the reality is that our mind works exactly the same way, and our business practices work exactly the same way. If you are so vividly clear on what you want, then all the things that you decide now are going to take you towards that. Now, that still doesn't mean that you may have competing priorities. Well, you have to make a choice, right? You have to make a choice. And one of the things is that quite often people will get overwhelmed because, like, oh my gosh, I've got 76 things that I need to do and I don't know which to do first. Well, firstly, people need to get it out of their head and get it on paper. Either get it on paper or type it down or put it on a whiteboard or get it out of your head, because trying to solve it in your head is not helping you. Because what happens when people get overwhelmed? It's like, I've got 76 things to do and I'm so overwhelmed, I'm going to do nothing. That's my solution. I'm going to do zero. And I'm going to do zero of that. And clearly that doesn't take me closer to my goal. So get the things out of your head, get them down in front of you, and then you can just start to plan out. And you can start to go, well, cool. Well, will we just park this till next month or next week? We'll do this. This is more important. Bill Gates talks about people will overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year and underestimate what they can achieve in 10 years. And what that means is that people will try and jam everything into the first month. It's like, I'm going to do all these things and I'm going to do this and do this. And when we don't do it, we feel dreadful and we feel like a failure, as opposed to, had we have methodically placed it out, got ourselves a nice, guidepost, clear goal, steps along the way, milestones, guess what? You work at a month, 2 months, 6 months, 12 months, and you look back and you go, oh my gosh, like, how much have I achieved? As opposed to jamming it all in. And I was actually having this conversation yesterday where, as kids, we were taught the fable of the tortoise and the tortoise, sorry, not the horse, the tortoise. Yeah, I'm just making stuff up here. The tortoise and the hare. And it's only now that I look back and I actually resonate with the point. Like, at the time, I was like, oh yeah, I get all that, as a kid. But now I look back and go, my gosh, like, how true is that? So people try to be the hare and they try to jam everything in and they try to go at 100 mile an hour and they burn out. And yet slow and steady, slow and steady, slow and steady wins the race. Patience, longevity, sustainability. If you're going to get into business, like, it's a big commitment, both time, financially, etc. You don't want to be in it for a short period of time. You're doing this for the next X number of years. So slow and steady wins the race.
And do you find that as individuals and business owners, that we don't recognize how far we've come?
Absolutely.
I saw a post that you had up yesterday around that same notion of not giving ourselves enough credit for how far we've come. And yet, I do find a lot of business owners, particularly, people who are really, really high achievers, they're like, I haven't got there, I haven't finished what I wanted to do. I haven't hit my goals, and I feel like I've been working so hard. Like, what are some good tips there for people to do and recognize and give themselves a pat on the back, but also go, don't be too hard on yourself. Right.
So I'm going to get really deep here. So the first one is, there's a saying which is, be happy with what you've got whilst you pursue what you want. And if I look back to me and when I made the transformation in my life, there's two key things that I discovered about myself. One is that I needed to learn to be grateful, and two is I needed to accept responsibility. So let's talk about the grateful piece, right? And so what happens is, people, when they work hard and they feel they haven't achieved what they want to do, they get angry, they get frustrated, they get upset. And so the law of attraction says that if that's what you're going to project out, that's what's going to come back, right? And this is my interpretation of the law of attraction. That's why I said I'm going to get a little bit deep. And so when you put out to the world frustration, anger, upset, hurt, impatience, all those things, that's what comes back and smacks you in the face, as opposed to saying, you know what, I am where I am. yeah, I'm not where I want to be, but you know what? I've achieved so much and I'm so happy with what I've got. And now I'm putting happiness out to the world. And again, if I'm happy, am I more or less productive? And I'm more productive, right? And when I'm more productive, I'm going to be more successful, as opposed to the other way, which is I'm frustrated and I'm angry and I'm grinding and I'm pushing, right? So go back to the point that I made right at the start of this conversation around people push towards a goal, whereas I want people to be pulled towards a goal. I want you to have this thing in front of you that's this massive magnet, and it's just pulling you towards it. And when you're pulled towards something, it's effortless. Doesn't mean that it's easy. None of this is easy, right? But it means that it's effortless because this thing is just so powerful, right? And so that's one of the things. It's about be grateful. Be grateful. You also talked about looking back, and I say to people, only look back for a few reasons. So the first is look back to take the lesson, take the mistake. Like I make mistakes. I've made plenty in this conversation. I'll make heaps more today, heaps more tomorrow, etc. Right? But take the lesson. The second is look back and enjoy a happy moment, a happy memory, an event, a wedding, or whatever. Right? The third is the point that you touched on, is to look back and see how far you've come and go, oh my gosh. And I actually had this conversation in a coaching session this morning with someone where he was comparing himself to other people and saying, I'm not at that level. And I said, whoa. I said, firstly, they've been doing this for about 10 times longer than you. So that's an incorrect comparison. But secondly, let's talk about your journey. And what have you done in the last 12 months? And he rattled it off. And I said, well, what do you feel? How do you feel about that? He said, my gosh, that's amazing. Right. And we don't do it because we're too busy moving. The world goes at a fast pace, right? And I understand that. But often it's a case of another saying, which is stop and smell the roses. Get present, be happy with what you've got. And from time to time, sit on your rocking chair on your front porch and reflect on, oh my gosh, like I feel so proud of what I've been able to achieve in the last 12 months, month, 12 days. Like it doesn't really matter. Like yesterday, I'm so proud of what I achieved yesterday. Like again, you when you're grateful, you're happy. And to me, it's all about being happy, right? And this is the problem with small businesses. A lot of people go into small business, and because they grind it and they grind it and they grind it and they grind, they aren't happy. They aren't happy, and when you're not happy, it becomes this perpetuating cycle. It's very, very hard to break, and you have to break that cycle. Otherwise, you're just going to grind it out and not get paid much and be incredibly bitter with the world.
Yeah, that simple word happy, I have to admit, often we don't associate that with business.
No.
I know it sounds sounds silly, but we don't say that. We don't often associate because we're, it's the hustle and the business and working hard and everything, but we don't hear people say, I'm really happy doing my business. And I think that whole mindset shift from going from busy to I'm grateful and I'm happy. I think that's a big transformation in itself.
Oh, it's massive. And I say to people that in order to build a better business, you need to build a better you. It's that simple for me, and so that's why my business focuses on sales, leadership, and mindset, with a heavy dose of the mindset, because when you're happy, I've said it a few times here today, when you're happy, you're so productive. You're so productive. It doesn't feel like a chore. You didn't start off to get into business to have it feel like a chore and to grind it out every day and to be paid, not much at all for your effort. That's not why people started to get into business. Typically, they wanted to get in there because they want to be their own boss, want to have their own lifestyle, want to be in control of their own destiny, create financial wealth for themselves. Like these are the reasons that people start getting into business. But it doesn't always come to fruition.
No. So I'm going to share something, Tony.
Please.
There are times when I'm like, and this will be the same for a lot of people, that I just feel so overwhelmed. Like, I've got, I'm a mum with young children. I've got my business. I've got projects. And there are times where I'm like, holy poo-poo. I don't feel like I'm doing anything well. Everything is a huge priority. I'm feeling so overwhelmed. I'm feeling stuck. I get paralyzed, How do you, and what is your way to be able to get from that paralysis to just move forward?
Yeah, again, simple, not easy. So thoughts become things. Where you focus your attention, that's what you bring into your world. If you focus on being stuck, then that manifests, right? So if I think to myself, I'm stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck. And whether you say that verbally, whether you say that internally, you're stuck. And now what happens is the stuck becomes this, goes from this big to now it's this big, right? Because I keep thinking about being stuck. And the more I think about it, the bigger it becomes. Right. So the first thing is that you need to recognize to stop dwelling on the past, right? So when you're thinking about being stuck, you're looking backwards. You're looking at the problem. The problem's happened, right? It's you're by definition looking back. And the whole thing is we need to get you to look in a forwards direction. So the forward direction is, well, how do I solve this? Well, if you're feeling overwhelmed, simplest way to overcome overwhelm is to break things down, is to, as I said, get them out of your head, get them down on paper, write them all down, and put a number beside them in the order that you want to do them, and methodically just chip them off or chip them away, and be happy with the fact that you're doing that. Right? That's how you can do that. But in regards to moving forward, it's firstly stop dwelling on the past. By dwelling on the past, ask yourself some questions around, what am I dwelling on? Why am I dwelling on it? What is it that I'm missing out on by dwelling on the past? What's the opportunity cost, right? Because by asking some of those questions, you want to really give yourself a jolt. And it's like, oh my gosh, like I'm looking backwards and I'm dwelling on this thing that's happened, and can I really change it? Well, the answer is no, you can't. So why am I sitting here fixating on this thing and wasting all my effort and my energy and etc.? It's like you're wasting your time, right? So now it's about swinging your focus around to, again, go back to what I said before about, I got this goal. And when you're so connected to this goal, see, people fall over from their goals often, typically because they're not connected to it. Because maybe the goal's too big, maybe they're too ambitious with the goal, maybe they're fearful of criticism, whatever it might be. I call this the January 1st effect. Every January 1st, it happens, right? Every single year that I've been on this earth, people set goals. By the middle of January, they're all done. It's over. And it's over because they're setting them for all the wrong reasons. When you are so vividly clear on that thing that's in front of you and you understand why that's so important and you're so connected to that thing, that's where the magic is. The magic is to get clear on that and then to start to move in a forward direction. So we go back to stop dwelling on the past. Focus on what it is that you want, which is in a forward direction. Always look in a forward direction. Remember, thoughts become things. When I think positively, when I think in a forward direction, when I think solution-oriented, that becomes a thing. When I think negatively, when I think about being stuck, that becomes a thing. Right? Now, here's the thing. Consciously, a lot of us know what we should be doing. So if I use weight loss as an example, the majority of us know that we should eat good food and move a little bit, drink some water and get a bit of sleep. I think most people would know that's what you need to do, right? In order to lose weight. People don't do it. Why not? Because they're operating from their subconscious. 90% of the things that you do today, that I do today, are going to come from our subconscious mind, right? Our beliefs, our thought patterns, things that have been there for a very, very long time. And you have to break that. And you have to break that. Otherwise, you're going to continually do the same thing over and over. We operate in patterns, right? Our mind operates in patterns, and you have to break the pattern, break the cycle. That's the only way that you're able to move forward. So by having something in front of you, then it's about, the next bit is around self-awareness. So the awareness of the fact that I am wasting my time procrastinating, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I've got doubt, a limiting belief, I'm spending my time on things that aren't serving me, right? So I create the awareness. Now, how do I do that? Well, I ask two magical questions, right? And you don't need to pay me big money to ask these, right? The first one is you ask yourself every day, what did I do well today? What did I do well today? Every day, what were the things that I did well? And you want to ask that question first. Why? Because if I say to people, how are you going? What I typically get is a tale of woe. Right, well, that went wrong, that fell over, but all this stuff, right? Whereas when you say, what went well? What were the good things? Again, go back to what I was saying 5 minutes ago. Gratitude, feeling good about yourself, feeling happy, right? You do that because you asked that question. The second question you ask is then, what can I do differently? Not what went wrong, beat yourself up, all those things. No. Can't change today, right? Can't change today. what can I do differently moving forward? And so you do this over a period of time, and you start to recognize the fact that, oh my gosh, I'm not making that phone call that I should be making. I'm actually acting with fear. Like I'm procrastinating on making that phone call that is the potential customer. And why? Because maybe I'm fearful of being rejected. Maybe I'm fearful of them saying no to me. And as a result, I'm going to avoid that call like the plague, and I'm going to go and clean my desk.
Yes. I've got a very clean desk.
Right. Well, you need to pick your phone up, right? Make more phone calls, right?
Yeah.
And so that's something else, is to recognize that you need to create self-awareness. Now, self-awareness is not the panacea, because now what happens is, now that you're aware, you can still ignore it. It's like, yeah, I'm aware that I'm procrastinating. Who cares? So the key is the A word, action. You have to take action. Action. And I thank you. And I had this conversation with someone this morning, because they were saying, oh, Tony, can you suggest any books, or can you suggest any videos that I can watch or whatever? It's like, yeah, I can. But here's where the magic happens. When you get on the field and you play the game. In sport, they call it match fit, right? So when people are returning from injury, they're out in the training paddock and they're doing what they need to do. But there's no substitute for match fitness, right? So even though you could be as fit as you want on the training paddock, the moment they get on to the field, into the cut and thrust of the game, then they start to run out of steam. So you need to get match fit. No different in business. You get match fit. If you are fearful of making phone calls, a really, really, really simple way to overcome your fear of making phone calls is to make phone calls. That's it. Like it really is, lean into the thing that is scaring you the most, because that's where the growth and the magic happens.
Absolutely. We've got a few comments here. There's always lots of comments.
Wow.
So Peter says, great message. Stop and smell the roses. Look down at your mountain and not look up at others, unless those others are inspiring you and pulling you forward.
I agree with that, by the way. That's a good point you make, is that if you're looking up at others in a comparative way, no. But like you said, people have gone before you. So whatever whatever it is that you're trying to do, I'll guarantee you that someone's gone before you. That's the reality. And it's so easy now to find out what they do. Like, people leave breadcrumbs, right? And so there's this amazing website, google.com, and you Google it up and you try and figure out, what did someone do to create whatever it is? How did someone start a small business? Or, it might be a small business in clothing, or a small business in, plastics manufacturing, whatever it is. There are people who have gone before you. So yes, if they inspire you, great. If you're comparing yourself, if the Joneses, those damn Joneses, if you're comparing yourself, then I'm going to say, don't do it.
Yeah. Sean, he says, not blaming others. Oh, lots of comments. So I'm losing them. Peter, 100%. Declan, great value and content as always. Thank you for joining us. Luke Maroney, make shit happen. Absolutely. That's action man here, making shit happen. And Peter, no need to blame yourself. It's a learning experience. Had to learn that myself. And one of the things is that whole we get stuck, right? We get, like you mentioned, getting stuck in the past and getting stuck in our head and getting stuck in the fear and procrastination. Let's drill down to a really practical way of how we can go from getting stuck in letting our ego hold us back. And this is the 3-2-1. Which I love. With anything, whether it's waking up at 5 o'clock or anything else, that I think it's a really good practice to have when you are feeling in that mode, to be able to go, all right, you've had your moment. To a certain extent, snap out of it. Let's get going.
Yeah, that's the thing. And can I say, I have moments, right? I don't want to sit here and say that I don't, because I do, right? And I have my own moments.
You are human.
I'm human. We all have our own moments. The difference is that I'm able to get out of it pretty quickly, whereas others sit and dwell, fester, play this thing out on your mind. And again, what you think about manifests, and it becomes bigger and bigger. And all of a sudden you've turned, a little molehill into this huge mountain that becomes very difficult to move beyond. So it's about understanding, what it is that you need to do. And I touched on it. In order to get unstuck, stop dwelling, figure out why you're dwelling, and there's some questions that you can ask, and I mentioned those earlier. Then it's about putting your attention into a forwards direction. What is the thing that you want in front of you? Always. So when you drive a car, where do you look? Do you look out the front or do you look at the rear view, right? And the answer is you look out the front, because if you look in the rear view, you're going to have a crash. So keep looking out the front, keep looking towards the road that's in front of you. It really is, again, it's simple. It's just not easy.
Yeah. And that's a really good analogy, because we still have to look back, because you just got to be able to keep an eye on things, but you've got to have your vision this way to keep powering forward. I think that's some really, really good tips there. Let's talk about belief. All right, we talked about why.
Yeah.
And belief. So belief, is that the belief in oneself,
Of course.
or belief that we're going to be able to get there?
Both. It's the same thing, right? So
Yeah.
and Henry Ford said this, whether you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right. Thoughts become things. I said it before. Thoughts become things. When you believe that you can do something, you will do it. The problem is that people don't believe. And again, I'm not talking at a conscious level. Like, yes, you need to be at a conscious level, but I'm talking at a subconscious level. I'm talking about doing those two questions, asking those two questions and starting to create the awareness. And then once you've created the awareness, start to challenge yourself, right? So limiting beliefs are fears, doubts, right? These are limiting beliefs. These are things that hold us back. And fear manifests itself in procrastination. When you are procrastinating, you are fearing something, right? And here's the psychology of all this, Cheryl. Our mind, your mind, my mind, everyone who's watching mind, it has one role. That's it, just the one. It's called survival. It's called keeping us safe to survive and make our way through life. That's the only role that it has. And what happens is when it spots danger, then it wants to avoid it, right? Which is terrific. The problem is with fear, there are two types of fear at the highest level. There is danger. Danger is I'm about to get eaten by a shark or chased by a dog or run over by a truck. That you want the emotion of fear to kick in big time, right? Because it's going to get you moving, right? But the other fear, this is where we've all gone a bit skew-if over the generations, is irrational fear, with an I, irrational fear. That is public speaking, making a sales call, asking that boy or girl out, approaching someone at a network meeting. That's a rational fear. Are you in danger? Are you in danger when you go up to someone at a network meeting? Of course you're not. Are you in danger of when you pick up the phone to make that prospecting call? Of course you're not. But we've created this thing in our mind to make it feel like it's a dangerous situation. Our mind says, let's avoid that. Let's avoid that. And so what happens is then you have two choices, right? So you have the choice of making the sales call, which is this dangerous, fearful thing in our mind, right? Versus cleaning the desk, right? Then you clean the desk, you do the dishes, right? You do things that are less painful, less dangerous, right? Because again, the mind's role to avoid danger, to avoid the discomfort. Like if your mind had its way, you would sit in front of Netflix 24/7 and you would be so content, right? But the reality is that the magic happens with the growth, with getting out of your comfort zone. So the way in which you overcome procrastination is that you have to use projection. So what happens is, in front of me, I got to make a phone call. Oops, I'm going to avoid that. I'm going to clean the desk. When I project into the future, if I project 6, 12, 18 months into the future, now I think about, well, if I don't make this phone call back here in August 2020, and now in August of 2021, well, my business may not survive. And we started off talking about the stats of, 60% of businesses fall over within the first 3 years. Well, one of the biggest reasons they fall over is because they don't have enough customers, right? So in a year's time, how are you going to feel if you've got to shut up shop and you have no customers because you haven't done the things that you should have? And so you sit and think about that moment, right? And you project, and so you pile on the pain. You pile on the pain of hurt, unhappiness, anguish, disappointment, the R word, regret. In 12 months' time, I am going to have an enormous amount of regret if I don't do the things that I need to do and my business has to shut up shop. I'm going to look foolish. I'm going to be stupid in front of my friends and my family. All those people who said that I shouldn't have done it, they're going to be in my face going, see, we told you. So you pile this on, right? Now this is the equivalent of sticking a key in a car and starting the motor. This is like getting the motor started. So you use pain to take action. Now what you're doing is you're saying, well, sales call, desk, right? But now we're going, hang on a second, pain in the future, regret, versus the sales call. This pain is far more excruciating than this pain in front of me. Hence, I need to make this call. Does that make sense? And I'm giving it to you very simplistically. So now it's a case of I've stuck my key in the car, I've started my motor, that's got me going. Now what do? I look out the windscreen. I look out the windscreen. So I don't fixate on the pain, I don't fixate on the anguish, I don't fixate on the regret. I've used it for what it's there for, and it's got me into action. Now I'm looking forwards. And I'm looking forwards to the things that I've got to do. And I know that I've got to make these phone calls, because I know that when I make these phone calls, my probability of success and getting a customer increases significantly.
Where does that fear come from, and where is it manifested from? Because like you said, it's irrational, but yet we've managed to implant it into our minds.
It's who we
That
are as
it's,
humans.
yeah.
It's who we are. It's in us, right? Our mind, again, our mind wants to avoid danger. We have, over whether it be early on in our life, whether it be through parents, through experiences, through things we've watched on the news, through people we've met, etc. We've created all these stories in our head. If you think about the word belief, in the middle of the word belief are the letters L-I-E. It's a lie. It's a lie. You can create whatever belief you want to create, right? The problem is that most of us create a limiting belief, the belief that enables or doesn't enable us to crash through this ceiling. At a subconscious level, we feel we're not good enough. We're fearful, right? We don't feel we're worthy at a subconscious level. And so as a result, you'll never, ever, 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 ever break through. Right. And so there's a process that you need to go to break through these limiting beliefs to enable you to move forward. I'll give you an example, right? So Napoleon Hill wrote the book Think and Grow Rich. So hopefully the viewers have heard of that. Really, one of the world's best, most popular personal development books.
Yeah.
And in there he talks about a concept called 3 feet from gold. Right. So this book was written in the 1920s, I think. Don't quote me, but I think it was about then. And effectively what happens was back then you've got a miner, right? So a miner's got his hard hat and a pick and he's digging for gold. And he's dig, and he's digging down this tunnel. And he gets 3 feet from gold. Now, if you are 3 feet from gold, if you know that you're 3 feet from gold, do you keep digging? Well, the answer is, of course you do, because you're only 3 feet away. If I've dug 97 feet and I'm now 3 feet away, well, of course you do. But here's the beauty of life. You don't know you're 3 feet away from gold. And so that's called belief. That's called faith. Right? And that's the difference. Sadly, the majority of people will finish their life being 3 feet from gold. They won't ever have realized how close they actually became to getting their gold. And so what will happen is they'll turn around and they'll go, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I've dug 97 feet. I'm exhausted. I don't believe there's any gold here. And what happens is you turn around and you let it go and you don't get it. If you knew that there was gold just 3 feet away, you'd do whatever, you go with your hands if you had to, right? Because you know it's there, but you don't know it's there. So it's called belief or faith.
And I'm going to share another analogy, and it's
Please.
probably a bit, too much information, but as a mother who has birthed 2 children, and when you're in labor, there's really only one way out. Well, there's depending on which way, but there's it's tough. Yeah. It's tough. So the first time I remember my daughter, I remember her. Yes, that's good. So it was a long labor. It was tough. And I did get to a point where you hit the wall, right? Just with anything, life, and for me, I went in there thinking it's like a marathon. That's fine. I know it's 40, whether it's half marathon, full marathon, I know this is the end, but I couldn't actually see what the end was. And I was starting to say, oh man, what do I do now? Because this baby's not out, right? And so similar to what we go through in life, but I said, but the thing that the midwife said to me, and I was in a birth center, so there's no pain relief, nothing. You just like, it's either you birth the baby or you get, taken to the hospital.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
to
Yep.
slice you up.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
And so the thing she said to me was, darling, you're doing fine.
Mm.
It's labor for a reason,
Mm.
but you're doing fine.
Yeah.
Just believe in yourself.
That's it.
And we
That's it.
did. And she eventually came out, obviously.
Yeah.
But that was it, because we often do hit that wall.
Mm.
And then we sort of go, then it's that choice that you make as
Mm.
to whether you're going to crash through that wall
Mm.
and believe that there is the end point, or you are going to get there. It's
Yeah, absolutely.
when we don't believe in it and we just
Mm.
sort of go the other way
Mm.
or turn around, whichever.
Mm.
But
Mm.
if you had no choice, like,
Mm.
no, I not that I didn't have a choice. My
Mm.
choice was to have a natural birth. I'm going to
Mm.
have this
Mm.
baby,
Mm.
right?
Mm. Mm.
And it was just going, all right, I'm just going to believe in it. It will be fine.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things I want to say to that. So if we want to continue the baby analogy, as kids learning to walk, we don't give up, right? We're so committed to getting up, we fall down, we get up, we fall down, right? But as adults, we get knocked down and we stay down, right? So that's one of the things that I want to talk about, is that you've just got to keep going. The other is, you talked about that you had no choice, and that's the difference between being interested and being committed. You had no choice, right, with that situation. And then again, you apply that now to your business, you apply that to health and wellness, you apply that to certain things. Instead of being interested, I come across the majority of people are interested. They're interested in creating success for themselves. They're interested in, oh, that'd be nice. See all these business people on the news and read them in the paper, and that would be interesting, right? But they're not truly committed. They're not truly committed to what is required to create a successful business. And that's the difference.
Yeah.
So I come across people who are interested in stuff, but you have to get committed. Tony Robbins talks about, when you want to take the island, what do? You burn the boats. You burn the boats. There's no turning back. You're only going in a forward direction, and you're either taking over the island or you're dying. But either way, you're not going to go down without a fight. Whereas people, they try something, they hit the first hurdle. It's all too hard. This business thing, it's all too hard, and I'm giving up, right? And that's the whole mindset stuff, right? The mindset stuff is, I have to keep going. I have been knocked down so many times, right? But I keep getting up. We haven't got long enough here today to talk about all the times that I've been knocked down, right? But I keep getting up, and I keep getting up, and I'll continue to get up, right? Because it means so much to me to accomplish the things that I'm looking to accomplish, right? And so that's the piece. It's like, when you're committed to doing something, you will do whatever is required to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, what's happened to our connection?
Yeah, not
you're
sure.
back.
Yeah, here.
Excellent. Well, let me just see if we've got a few comments there. Really powerful stuff. That whole, again, such a great reminder, particularly when, as business owners, as entrepreneurs, there's always going to be challenges, right? There's always anything that you go through. Give yourself that ability to reflect and be aware, but that belief and knowing that it will all, you're doing the right thing. I think that message there, extremely powerful. To be able to get us moving forward.
Let me give the viewers some practical tips, right, to move forward. So that's the key. If I can serve people by giving them some tips to overcome their beliefs and start to improve. So there's a 6-step process. So the first one is to recognize, what is your limiting belief, right? So you want to recognize that I've got a fear of this, or a fear of that, or a doubt of this, or whatever it might be. Recognize what that is. The second is, if you can, try and identify where that's come from. So where is the source of that? Has it come from an event that happened when you're a kiddie, when you're in your teenage years? Has it been an experience that you've had? Perhaps you've had a business and you've failed before. Where has that come from, right? The third step is to recognize that it's BS. Again, in the middle of the word belief is the word L-I-E, lie. It is a lie. It's BS, right? So just because you have failed before in business doesn't mean that you will continually fail again in business. Your past does not need to equal your future, right? And so I had a failed business back in 2004 and 5, lost $100,000 in 9 months, disastrous, right? Well, that hasn't stopped me. Yes, it knocked me back big time, and $100,000 back then was enormous. Today is enormous, right? But back then it was enormous for us, for my wife and for my family. But that hasn't stopped me from doing the things that I want to do. So that's the first three. The next one is to form empowering beliefs. So that is to create the opposite of the belief that you have. So if you hate doing something, or if you are fearful of doing something, the opposite of that is love. If you are fearful of making a phone call to a prospect, the empowering belief is I love making phone calls to prospects, right? If you are blaming someone, right, if that's what you're doing, if you're blaming someone, well, the opposite of that is acceptance and responsibility, right? Judgment, acceptance, so on. So it's about forming an empowering belief, which is 100% the opposite of the belief that you're telling yourself. The next one is to start as if, right? Create the identity. So start to create the identity that you are a successful business person. Act like a successful business person. How would a successful business person act? Talk like a successful business person. Operate your business like you're a successful business person, right? Start to carry yourself and walk with a strut like a successful business person. Dress like a successful business person, right? Do all the things. Start to adopt and assume the identity of what you want to be, right?
Now I'm reflecting on if I've dressed appropriately or not.
And look, here I am in a polo shirt, right? And then the last one is around create evidence of success, right? So the evidence of success can come from one of two forms. The first form could come from start small, have some success, go, you're scared of making phone calls, right? You're fearful of making phone calls. Today, make one phone call. Cool. Tomorrow, make 2 phone calls. Cool. The next day, make 3 phone calls. So start small, but create evidence of success. And what happens, right, if we just play this out, this is a big one for people in sales, right? So what happens is you make a phone call and you come off the end. So you're fearful of making the phone call. You come off the end of the phone call and you go,
No one ate me.
That wasn't that bad. What was I worried about? I worked this thing up in my mind. What was I worried about? And so your mind then says, we're safe. So then you do another phone call. Your mind then says, we're safe. You do another phone call. Your mind then says, we're safe, we're safe, we're safe, we're safe. So
what if the third phone call, sorry, Tony, was the third phone call, you get someone on the other end who's a real grumpy bum, screams at you and, and then it's a setback, then you go, this is exactly what I was afraid of.
But are you in danger?
No one's
You're not in danger. So someone may have raised their voice at you. Someone may have said, stop wasting my time. Someone may not want to buy what you're selling, right? But are you in danger?
Physically, no.
No, you're not in danger. But you're not in danger, right? Someone goes, oh, stop wasting my time or get a bit cranky. You're not in danger. And here's the thing. So you have that moment. Well, you have 2 choices. Life, you always have 2 choices. You either go left or right. You can either go, oh my gosh, that's reaffirmed what I thought. I'm crap, and I'll never, ever be the thing that I want to be. Or that thing down the road, that goal down the road, that reason for getting that goal down the road is so big. It's so big. And this one person who may have been having a bad day, I've got no idea, right? They may have been having an off day. Maybe someone in their family just died. Maybe they've just gone and lost a client for $100,000 and you happen to ring at that time. And we play all these things up in our mind. But if this thing down the road is so big, you'll keep going and you'll keep going and you'll keep going and you'll build resilience, right? You'll build the muscle, right? And so that's the thing, right? So the first is to create evidence of success by starting small and just doing stuff. Go back to what I said, match fitness. You get fit by getting on the field and playing the game. It really is that simple. You can go and read all the books and you can go and watch all the YouTube clips and you can watch Cheryl and I and thank you for doing it. But the reality is you grow, you get out of your comfort zone by acting. The second example, right, in creating evidence of success is finding something else and applying it to what you're doing. So if I look at my story, I was in a very dark space in 2015, incredibly dark, right? And the thing that I did is that I went and did a weight loss, a weight transformation journey for 12 weeks. And I lost 12 kilos in 12 weeks, and I accept that I've gone and put half back on. I'm not here to talk about that. But my point is, in 2015, I lost 12 kilos in 12 weeks. So I got to the end of that, and I went, oh my gosh, if I can do that, if I can do that, I can do anything that I put my mind to. So then I went off and I started in property development and then got into coaching, and here I am today. My point is, weight loss has zero to do with business, zero. But I simply took the example that I had in my mind and I went, oh my gosh, like that is amazing what you've just accomplished. You can do whatever you put your mind to, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's the way you work through this. Now, here's the other thing with your mind. Again, remembering that my mind has a negative bias, wants to keep us safe. So you have to work on this stuff daily, right? You have to do this every single day. Work on your mind. How do you do it? You say positive things to yourself, right? Affirmations. You say to yourself the things that you want to be. You tell yourself that you can achieve whatever it is that you put your mind to, that you have all the skills and capabilities to be a successful business person, right? That money flows to you in abundance. Whatever it is your affirmation, you say it and you say it out aloud and you say it with conviction, right? And the reason you do that is because you want your subconscious mind to hear that. Now, when you say that to yourself over and over and over and over and over, you are priming yourself. You are building a machine. Right? The other is to visualize. Your mind, my mind, can't distinguish between what's real and what's imagined. And you visualize. And you visualize what you want your future to look like, right? You want to create certainty in your future. There is no certainty, right? But the best way is to create your own future, right? Well, actually, let me rephrase. There is certainty. The certainty is that if you choose to do nothing, you'll be unsuccessful, right? That's certain, right? But in regards to someone who has a go, has a red hot crack, there's not certainty, right? But you get out there and you look to create your own future and you visualize what you want your future to look like. And what happens is you've got this almost a state of deja vu happening, right, where you're starting to visualize yourself. Let me tell you a quick story. I don't know how much longer we've got, but let me tell you a quick story. I visualized myself giving my farewell speech in my job every day for 18 months before I delivered the farewell speech. Every day without fail. And a lot of the days I ended up in tears because I was so emotional and so connected to achieving this. Now, if this didn't happen to me, I think it's a whole lot of crap, but it happened to me. And I delivered my farewell speech 4 meters away from where I'd visualized for all those months. And it's because I was so connected to doing that. That goal meant so much to me, and zero was going to knock me off my my path. Now, that didn't mean that there weren't bad things that happened. Of course. But I was just so committed to accomplishing what I needed to accomplish.
That connection, because I'm a big believer of energy and vibrations that we give out, right? And the fact that in your mind you're creating this event and this image translates, and we talk about manifestation. It translates to the vibrations that you're giving out to the world. And it does these things where it goes to find what needs to be done to get that happening.
100%. 100%.
That's the law of attraction, I guess, in a hand movement form.
Well, it's the physics. It's quantum physics. That's what it is, right? So if you Google up Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and there's a Japanese guy whose name escapes me, and the movie escapes me, but effectively it's around water crystals.
Yep.
Right. So if you Google up Dr. Joe Dispenza and then water crystals, and the fact I can't remember that name is going to eat at me. Anyway, the point is this: that they had these water, so two jars of water, and this scientist, one jar of water, screamed at the water, thought bad things about the water, etc. And when they froze it and they put the water under the microscope, all the edges were jagged, it was rough, they looked dreadful. The other water, thought positively about the water, talked nicely to the water, and all the particles were symmetrical. Now, you might be sitting, oh my gosh, this bloke has he just gone and, what's he on? And he's gone all woo-woo on us and all this sort of stuff. But there's science behind this. There's science behind what you're talking about. You put this energy out, and the law of attraction, in my mind, is real. It's real, right? And, so research this stuff up, quantum physics. It's powerful, powerful stuff. But ultimately, thoughts become things. If you learn nothing else out of this last hour chat with Cheryl and I, thoughts become things, and not your conscious thoughts, your subconscious thoughts. That's where the magic is. It's the 90% that you aren't aware of, right? And so you've got to change your subconscious thoughts. Otherwise, it's never, ever, ever going to happen for you. And I'm sorry to break that to you here, but it's never going to happen.
All right. One biggest takeaway from today. Ooh,
oh, sorry.
That
was me.
Was
that was me. That was me kicking my chair. Sorry, it was an accident.
We're done.
Yeah.
And we are almost done, actually. The one takeaway from today, there's did you just say that? It was the one. The thought become things.
Thoughts become things. Thoughts become things. If you believe that you can create a successful business and you get out there and you act accordingly, you don't just think about it and go, oh, successful business. You've got to then put in practice the things that you think of. You have to act, right? When you do that, then you will create phenomenal success for yourself in whatever industry you're in, right? So that is my takeaway. It's the 3 words of thoughts become things.
Amazing. Thank you. Sean's just put a link to the water video.
Yeah, terrific. Thank you, Sean.
And he says that the old word abracadabra is supposed to mean, as I speak, I create.
There you go. I didn't know that. That's fascinating.
So the spirit fingers all had a reason for being.
They were very appropriate, right? It was an appropriate prop for what we were talking about.
Yeah, that was the whole idea. Tony, thank you so much for spending time with us. I always love having you around and sharing your words of wisdom.
Thank you.
Again, a great reminder of anyone that's particularly feeling stuck and they're really wondering, why did I end up doing this? It's so hard. Let's go back to basics. Why are we in this?
100%.
And do we believe that we're going to get there? So
100%.
Thank you, Tony.
Hey,
Have a fantastic day and the rest of the week.
Thank you.
And I will see you all soon. Thank you, everyone that tuned in. We had a great audience there. And be safe. Be well.
Bye.
Keep driving. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.